Okay, we are live, but we got to let it breathe just for a very brief beat here while we connect Instagram. Really happy to report and see that our connections to Facebook the last 2 days have been as per usual, as it's supposed to be. We've since learned from StreamYard that that is something they realize is a site wide, technology wide issue with Facebook. So they're working on fixing it. But we figured out how to manufacture a hack in the short term. Mr. Producer's keeping an eye on Facebook on the names on stars so that we know who you are. It's going to be dope. But welcome in, everybody. It is the Mile High Huddle podcast, the aftermath episode. I'm your host, Chad Jensen, and with me, my fellow priest of football priest of football. You know him, you love him, Zack Kelberman. Zack, I just fumbled something I've said 1 billion times
It's all good.
because I was already thinking about the, for lack of a better term, expose that was uncovered today on just how porous that left side of the Broncos line on field goal and extra points has been, and how evident and obvious it was to the Chiefs. Hey, this is where we attack when the chips were down. And you wrote it up for us at milehighhuddle.com. Give us the Cliff Notes synopsis of how bad Alex Forsyth has been and the implications thereof on this coaching staff.
Well, yeah, if you're going to blame Forsyth, then you have to blame the Broncos coaches because this wasn't an isolated incident. This wasn't a one-time thing. This has been going on for weeks, and the Chiefs found it on tape study against the Panthers. Forsyth was knocked over against the Ravens. Forsyth was knocked over even earlier on a Will Lutz PAT. Leo Chenal, the guy who blocked the field goal, knocked over Forsyth, but didn't get there. But he knew he was close because he found that weakness. That is on the Broncos coaches, Chad, for putting Forsyth, who Chenal said was light on his toes, in that position, knowing that he's been knocked over a team high 15 of 22 times on extra points and field goals.
Okay, to quote, this is Chenal telling Pro Football Talk, quote, "It wasn't so much on film, it was more like a feel in the game. You get so many reps. Like we were getting a lot of reps on field goal block, extra point, enough reps where you kind of get a feel like they're light here, they're reaching here. So you get a better and better chance as the game goes on. And I kind of knew the guy who I was rushing, Alex Forsyth, he was kind of light on his toes a little bit. And I was kind of getting a bit of a bull rush in. So it was just trying to take advantage of it, closed quote. And Zach, that's his feel in game. But the film, as you mentioned, revealed that, and this is via Parker Gabriel of the Denver Post, of the 22 instances, I'm going to quote you now, of the 22 instances this season where the Broncos linemen were, quote, knocked over backward on field goals and extra points, Forsyth, who's 6'4", 312 pounds, has been the culprit a team high 15 times. Shame on Sean Payton. Shame on Ben Kotwika and what's his name? Mike. I'm brain farting his name. Westhoff for missing this. It cost you a vital win and made you a laughing stock the league over for at least a news cycle.
Also, Zach Strief, because apparently, I mean, an offensive lineman should be light on their feet, but not necessarily light on their toes, Chad. You have to anchor, and it's basically a fundamental blocking issue that he just whiffed. Whoa, I'm going to stop talking now. Wow. Kayla, I'll do it too. Wow.
I'm going to shine a light. Check it out. Watch how the light changes. This is for you, Michaela. You just shined the light. See what my dome does? It just like, it's blinding. My mind just got blown. Holy smokes. The Duchess from the actual toppitest, the highest possible rope that YouTube will allow on an individual super chat, jumps in to say, "Hi, fellas. Sorry I've been so busy. Mom been needing me more and more. Love y'all. I'm feeling Bo might be our franchise quarterback." Plenty to talk about there relative to Bo, but thoughts and prayers to you and your mom. Yeah. We know what you're going through there. I mean, you've told us what you're going through. None of us can necessarily know exactly what it's like, what you're dealing with, but we love you. Thank you so much. This is just absolutely so generous that, as you can see, I'm a little bit, Zach, not sure what to say. I'm robbed of words.
Yeah, Michaela said in the chat, Michaela went splat. Michaela went Michaela. It's Michaela doing Michaela things. Thank you so much. I don't know what else to say either, Michaela. You have been keeping us speechless for years now, and definitely you and your mom will be in my thoughts and prayers, Chad, Scott's, everyone from the site. If you need anything, Michaela, anything, you let us know ASAP.
And that's true. And we don't just say that. I hope you know that, Michaela. If there's anything we can do, we would love to do it. And at the very least, as I said, the thoughts and prayers up for you and your mom, and the community giving you some props and love too. Conqueror's Kingdom. We love you, Michaela. Rodney Garcia, way to go, Michaela. Keith Brugman throwing down from Facebook. Dang, Michaela, you are amazing. Yes, she is. And we've been blessed to have her in our community now since the very first year. Zach and I took our existing on-demand podcast and started doing it as a live stream. And the model that we created, Zach, we created basically through trial and error. And our community kind of helped lead us to where they wanted this thing to go. And now everybody does this format. Everybody, I'm not going to say they copy our format, but at least everybody in our market, Zach, copied our format. And that's just the way they podcast now. But it's seriously, it's thanks to people like you, Michaela, and so many of our great Super Chat superstars and our big supporters on Facebook that have made this a standard and a mainstream show and platform. And can't thank you enough. Seriously. Thank you, Michaela.
There's so many podcasts out there. There's so many Broncos podcasts out there, but there's only one Michaela Parker out there. And I don't care if I see red or not Michaela next to your name or any color. As long as I see Michaela Parker in the chat, it's an MHH pod. It would not be the same without you. And thank you so much once again.
And by the way, we are going to be doing a jersey raffle for the month of October, a few days into this month, but we're going to be doing that at the end of tonight's show. So everybody stay tuned for that. But Zach, on her topic of Bo being the franchise quarterback, this is interesting. I've got an article on this coming after the podcast, but a quote here from Broncos tight end Adam Troutman. This came courtesy of the team website's Eric DeLala. Quote, "I'm not really surprised by anything Bo Nix does anymore." He called him that kid. "It shows extreme poise. You can't say enough good things about him. We believe in him, and he's been impressive," close quote. And, I mean, outside of Zach, that one game last year, the defense did enough in the first, the Sean Payton / Vance Joseph defense did enough in that first matchup at Arrowhead last season that if the offense would have had any kind of sign of life, that was a winnable game. Then they actually get everything handed to them, like not handed to them, but all the stars align in that second matchup, right at Mile High. The defense plays lights out, completely smothers Mahomes and company, and the offense shows some signs of life. And it was Russell Wilson, Zach, but it was the first time, really. I mean, you could make an argument about one Case Keenum game, but it was really the first time that a Broncos quarterback stepped up in a matchup versus the Chiefs, I'm talking last year, to deliver a noteworthy game-changing performance that led to the outcome that you want. And we saw that also, Zach, for the first time in how many quarterbacks post Peyton Manning yesterday in Bo Nix. He did everything he should have done to deliver that. You can argue, oh, no, they should have gone for the touchdown at the end. But there was, based on what they knew at the time, Zach, there was no one was going to be second guessing Sean Payton and company if that kick gets blocked. You know, if the O-line blocks it up and the kick is good, no one's going to be going, they should have gone for a touchdown. Hindsight's always 20/20. But Bo Nix, I'm here to tell you right now, I've been telling you this since before the draft, but it's emphatic now, Zach. Bo Nix is the truth. This is going to be your institutional franchise quarterback for the foreseeable future.
I think you said it best that if the Broncos just make that kick, if Forsyth just does his job, then the conversation about the game is that Bo Nix led the game-winning drive. He took the Broncos down the field. He converted a big third down to Cortland Sutton, and he did what he had to do, including out-dueling Patrick Mahomes at Kansas City. And I feel like that should still be the takeaway, Chad, is that Bo Nix, like you said, is the Broncos franchise quarterback. He's getting better every week. And when you can go to Arrowhead as a rookie and go toe-to-toe with Patrick Mahomes and you deserve to win that game, then you're definitely on the right track.
Michaela, love you so much. Seriously, love you. The Papa Bear, we also love David McElrath checking in. to say good evening, Broncos country, Chad, Zach, and Deacon Scott. This team will be okay. Hashtag God bless the USA, 10-7, MHH for life, Buckham ×3, Denver Broncos for life, Knicks for 6. Let's go, Bo. Yeah, 5-5. There's a much easier road to hoe from here on out. We'll continue to break that down as tonight's show and this week's shows matriculate. But Sam Bam also jumping in. Love you, brother. Thank you. It's great to see you tonight, big dog. He says, evening, guys. Tough loss yesterday, but the Broncos were no doubt showing a lot of growth and heading in the right direction. I still think they finished 10-7 by winning 5 of the next 7. Go Broncos. Zach, if they win 5 of the next 7, they're in the playoffs. And this season will be viewed as a general success, snapping the streak. Easier said than done. There are a few tough matchups, but nothing like what they faced the first 2 months of the season, to be frank, aside from the Falcons, that road trip to the Chargers, that last game against the Chiefs you could point to, but they're probably going to be resting starters. They've got they'll end up having the 1 seed locked. So that won't be the same magnitude of opponent. And then I worry a little bit about the Cincinnati Bengals game, but really, what else do you have to worry about to finish 10-7?
If they want to be them, I have been saying this for weeks, and it's true. If you want to be in the playoffs, you have to prove that you can beat playoff worthy teams. And I know the Falcons are a step down from Baltimore or Kansas City, but they're vying in the NFC as well for the playoffs, Chad. So this is legitimately a must-win game for Denver if the wild card is their goal. After Atlanta, they go to Vegas, then they're home for Cleveland, then they're home for Indianapolis, and they go to the Chargers. It's not a gauntlet, Chad. They can legitimately go 5-0 there, but 4-1 at the worst, at the minimum, would put them right in the 6th or 7th seed, looking really good.
Max jumping in up north of the 49th parallel. This is one of the great members of our community who proves Broncos country is not a geographic location. It's a hashtag state of being, and it's a newer name. Saying good evening, gents, from Manitoulin Island. Not sure where that is. Do you know where that is?
About to Google that right now.
Yeah, Google that. I'll read it while you Google. He says, love the show. Thank you, buddy. This team has surpassed my expectations for this season. I just hope the Broncos can get a wild card spot to end the playoff drought. Hashtag go Broncos. As of the end of business yesterday, Zach, unless something's changed that I'm not aware of, even though they lost, they're still in possession of the 7th seed. Has that changed?
Nope. And they would be at Buffalo in round 1 of the wild card round.
It's proven now, Zach, that this team, the Ravens is the one exception that proves the rule. And what that rule is that the Broncos can hang with any team in this league. And the trend that this team is showing, not just this season overall, 10,000-foot view, but as a measuring stick, as a litmus test with the Chiefs in the Sean Payton era, every one of these games so far has been winnable. Now we can pick nits, and justifiably so, Zach, for the reasons why they're not 3-0 or why they're not 2-1, especially. But the Broncos are showing that, hey, the biggest thing plaguing us all these years has been we don't have the guy, and maybe even more importantly, we don't have the guy and the right head coach. That combination that you see working so well for the Kansas City Chiefs, the Broncos finally do have that combo, coach, quarterback.
Yeah, I learned something new. Manitoulin Island is an island in Lake Huron. It's a part of the province of Ontario in Canada. It looks beautiful. So props to you, wow. Max. Definitely want to visit there someday. And what you said there is the best case scenario. The Broncos make the playoffs and maybe win a playoff game. That's A++. But again, the goal of the season, Chad and Max, was to find out whether Bo Nix is the guy. And so far, the answer is pointing to yes. And sometimes it screams yes. And if you look at it through that lens, then this year is already a success.
Eric Flynn throwing down some stars on Facebook. I'm really happy to see that it seems StreamYard has figured out that part at least, and we're able to see the names, so that's really cool. Eric Flynn, appreciate you, big dog. Great to see you. Speaking of names, we all know the Triple C as he goes by in these parts. Colby C. Collier jumping in to say, heartbroken and shocked like everyone, but we didn't score in the second half, and we're playing not to lose. Zach, this is one of the storylines that you really emphasized in the gut reaction. Playing not to lose instead of playing to win again.
I hate it. I hate it. I don't care who the coach is. I said it when VJ was the coach, Vic Fangio, Nathaniel Hackett, and now Sean Payton. It's like when you played the Patriots back in the day, Chad. If you ever got even a 1-point lead, its teams would just go into a shell and trip over their own, you know what's. And that's how you can't beat the elite teams like that. You have to keep your foot on their throats. You have to keep scoring and being aggressive. They were good in the first half, but where was that aggressiveness in the second half? They were too conservative, and it cost them the ball game yesterday.
Phil McLaughlin checking in. Good to see you again today, my friend. He says, good evening, Chad, Zach, and Deacon Scott. Yelp, coaches missed the fact that Forsyth should not have been in that position. Buckham, MHH for life, Broncos for life. Yeah, and that's one of the shameful, when I say shame on you, that's what I'm talking about is how was that not observed? How was that not seen in the film room by these coaches? I mean, these coaches know. Trust me, dude. Just as somebody who's coached children in flag football, as your boy here has multiple times, you see when your guys are getting trucked. You know what I mean? Like it jumps out to you, especially when you on a football level, you know, like pro football, where it's 53-man roster plus a 60-man practice squad. Zach, you've got individual coaches and assistants for each position. Those guys, their full scrutiny is on what's going on there. So once again, shame on the Broncos coaches. So as a unit there for missing that, and then also Alex Forsyth, dude. Like, there's still a part of me, Zach, that's surprised they didn't cut him today.
If fool me once, shame on you, but fool me 15 times, because that was how many times he's been knocked over this season
Right.
in similar situations. I mean, Chet, like you said, how do you ignore that? It's either that they missed it 15 times, or once again, Sean Payton thought that he knew best and he wanted him out there because he could do no wrong. It's inexcusable to me.
Or, hey, you know, we had to sit him down because Wattenberg's back. Let's not take everything from him. Let him go ahead and go play. Just bad. Casey Nickel, another one of our longtime Super Chat superstars, checking in. Thank you, bro. Great to see you tonight. He says, in the past, it was always the conversation of needing our future. He's here, and it's Bo Nix, and we're in for that fun part where we have upcoming cap space and full drafts to build around our franchise QB. Let the development, let's freaking go, LFG. Indeed. The Broncos will begin, Zach. I mean, I guess you could say they began this past offseason, but in earnest, the building of the nest around Bo Nix really kicks off this coming offseason.
I mean, that's a really good point, Casey, for perspective here. Bo Nix has looked this good, and when you consider it's a rebuilding year, a salary cap hell kind of year, his supporting cast is terrible, and I would assume that would be a priority in the offseason. So you have to wonder how this team looks. If they're competitive right now and they're literally a missed block away from beating Kansas City in Kansas City, how good they're going to look a year from now when they start, as Chad said, building up that nest. There's a lot to like going forward.
Troy Morris on Facebook. Thank you, brother. Great to see you. He says, that loss made me more sick than any Super Bowl loss. I could have thrown up. We played it as good as we could have. We put a beating on Mahomes. Bo Nix was a cool cat. Just a collapse on the line for one stupid kick. The future still looks bright. I know, dude. Seriously, those of you who were in the room last night for the gut reaction, like, you know, the game ended. You know, the result, Zach, was literally a last-second event. Game's over. Maybe 10 minutes it took me to schedule the stream. And then probably the first 30 minutes of the stream, I was in this state of shock. I was in this weird fugue state because not just, Zach, that it happened, right? It's how it happened, the stakes thereof, everything you fought and battled for, and that's how it's squandered. I mean, if he would have said, if I told you the story, I'd actually turned to deal with my dogs on something when he was making the kick and I hear the announcers go, oh, and I'm like, had I turned like that and gone, oh, wide left, the shock I would have had would have actually been significantly lower. It was the form, it was how it shook out, the complexion thereof, Zach, that actually stunned me. I'm like, really? I mean, think about how low percentage, probability wise, it is for a kick to be blocked in the NFL at any point, let alone at the penultimate most important point in a game.
It was we got George Fox saying, "Appreciate you, George. This pod has the best fans, and Michaela is at the top of Mount Rushmore." Yes, she is. Thanks for all who listen and are true fans. Go Broncos, Denver Broncos for life, MHH for life. Hit the thumbs up, guys. Appreciate you, George, as always, sir.
Love you, big dog. Thank you. But yeah, Zach, I don't blame people who are still in a minute state of shock. I really can't.
Thank you. I lost my train of thought there. I was thinking back yesterday. It was so surreal and so shocking to 2016 when the Broncos, we talked about it a few weeks ago before they played, when the Broncos beat the Saints off that blocked field goal returned back by Simmons and Will Parks. At that moment, I remember 8 years ago thinking, I wonder how Saints fans feel right now to lose like that. It was so crazy. And then 8 years later, I finally figured out how they felt. I still can't believe it.
Man, it's crazy how time, it's like everything's happened before and it'll happen again. Keith Brugman, what's up, bro? Did Audric Estime just give Javonte Williams a stiff arm in the running back competition? Do you still see Pookie contributing meaningfully in regards to yards this season? Zach, I do. I'm not convinced that what we saw yesterday is the new status quo. And by that, I mean Audric Estime getting 15 totes and a third of that also being carries from the running back position by Marvin Mims. I'm not saying it won't happen. I'm just not convinced. Javonte, I don't know how you could go, Zach, as a regime from doggedly just continuing to throw him into the teeth of your blockers' backs, game in, game out, unchanging, unflinching, and then suddenly we're just not doing that at all anymore. He only had one carry yesterday.
It kills me to say this, but there's nothing that Javonte brings to the table that is worthy of making him the starter. I mean, the only thing you can point to, his best quality might be his pass protection and blitz pickup. That's not worth making him the RB1. That's not worth, Estime sitting on the sidelines. He needs to get the carries. I like what I saw. Sean Payton liked what he saw. There was more vision. There was more juice. And I've been saying this, you've been saying this, whoever can give the Broncos some pop in the backfield, it was Bidet, now it might be Estime. That's who they have to go with. The days of Javonte being the bell cow are over.
This is from Eric Trickle's grades article. Estime finished with a solid grade. He wrote, Estime ran hard and showed more burst than Javonte Williams or Jaleel McLaughlin. Williams hasn't come close to Estime's level of burst all season. While he had a 3.8 yards per carry average, in other words, that's what he finished with, Estime averaged 4.5 yards per carry before the Broncos went into that run out the clock mode at the end, where he had 4 yards on 3 carries, and then best of all, no fumbles. So he gave the Broncos, you minus those 3 carries, he gave the Broncos roughly 50 yards of offense on, 11, 12 carries, and that was in a game that was significantly kind of weird flow-wise because the Chiefs possessed the ball as much as they did. So not as many possessions for the Broncos offense in Week 10. It's not going to be like that almost ever, especially with the Broncos defense being the way it is. So expect to see a lot more of Estime. The key for him, love the vision, love the burst, love the physicality. The key for him, Zach, is going to be holding on to that rock, and then we'll grab Taylor.
Yeah, I mean, I see Phil. I know I'm fuzzy. My camera kind of crapped out. I'll fix it in a second. I don't want to cut chat off. Absolutely. That's the only, downside, I think, to Estime's game as the early down bruiser. What Javonte Williams probably should have been, Chad. He held onto the ball yesterday, and he looked, on a per snap basis, more explosive than Javonte has pretty much except one game this year.
That injury just robbed Javonte. Vision was always a problem for him, but just the burst, the explosion. He's still really physical, but you don't see those big plays anymore from him. Taylor Christensen, love you, big dog, says Alex Forsyth should be informed the NFL stands for not for long for a reason. LOL. Cooled down from yesterday's robbery, but I will say Knicks looks great. Go Denver Broncos. If anyone was robbed, it was the Broncos robbing themselves, Zach. It was snatching defeat from the jaws of victory.
Yeah, and they've had a couple of those games. And you mentioned the Demaryius Thomas, Case Keenum won, the Matt Moore when Patrick Mahomes got hurt. It's been a tough 8 years against the Chiefs. We got Zeus. Feels good to do that again. McPeak hopping in 1999 Super. So good to see you, Stu, as always. Right up there with Michaela on the MHH Mount Rushmore. Hi, all. On to Atlanta. Hopefully the coaches make the right changes. Yeah, you have to just forget about it like you did against Baltimore. It sucks. It's heartbreaking, soul crushing, but you got to move on. A lot of season left, Chad. And if you win these next 4 or 5 games in a row, you could be in the playoffs. It's not out of the question by any means.
Well, and the Falcons, I mean, they are no joke. This is a good football team. And so the Broncos got to bury this one quick. As he said, make the right changes, learn the right lessons, make the right tweaks, and you can beat the Falcons at home in Denver. Really appreciate seeing you, Zeus, tonight. And also, I got to tell you, I appreciated your post. I saw it on X earlier today celebrating Veterans Day. Hats off to all the veterans. Love you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. The Ronk also checking in. I was impressed that Nix didn't throw his teammates under the bus. Would have been easy to do. A lesser quarterback, Zach, a quarterback with a more, we'll say, flawed temperament may have been tempted to do that. But Bo Nix, that's not his style. He's the guy that will fall on the sword, Zach, even when it's not his fault. And even last night, where there was no way for him really to fall on the sword, he's not going to throw anybody under the bus. He's just going to say, collectively, we need to learn how to finish, which is really what his message was coming out of that.
And he's also not going to pander and start thanking every single teammate and listing every single positive quality and just giving word salad and cliches. He's honest, he's forthcoming, but like Chad said, he would sooner blame himself than blame any other teammate.
It's great to see you tonight, Ronk. Hope you're doing well, big dog. Eric Flynn with a comment. Thank you, bro, on Facebook. On the kick, it looked like the guy to the right of Forsyth went after the wrong guy. So Forsyth was 2-on-1 on top of being light on his feet. Maybe, but he had some legit dudes next to him. McGlinchey. Okay, so the long snapper, Miners, McGlinchey, Forsyth, if memory serves. I'm pretty sure that's what it was on the left side. For some reason, on these kicks, am I getting this wrong, Zach? That Bowles is on the right side and McGlinchey's on the inside, but on the left. You know, it's a different strategy what you're blocking for on a kick like that. But no, dude, it was the dude went on his butt before the second guy could even get there, bro. It was straight collapse, failure to execute, absolute snafu, absolute foobar. I mean, we're talking beyond all recognition here, Zach. It was screwed up.
On the left side, I think Matt Peart was there too. I'm not totally sure, but it was just the entire just wall collapsed. And Eric, this wasn't a one-time thing like we talked about. This has been on tape for weeks. And we could talk about Alex Forsyth screwing up because he did, but he should never have been in that situation, or he shouldn't have been so light on his feet, as we've all heard. If you look at the picture of the screenshot, Chad, he literally offered no resistance. He was on his back in missionary. I mean, what are we doing?
Indeed. Phil saying, guys, I'm trying to understand why each team adjusts to our offense at half, but it seems we seldom do, especially against tougher teams. What needs to happen? Yeah, this is one of those things where it's on a little bit of everybody here, because Sean Payton, to quote Mr. Producer, you know, you can't go into the prevent offense, so to speak, as you saw the Broncos doing yesterday. And at the same time, one of the phenomenons of yesterday's game, Zach, and it's not unique to the Chiefs, but it was especially apparent versus the Chiefs, was that they came out of halftime trailing, of course. They came out of halftime and took their want to and intensity and physicality levels up a few pegs, and the Broncos didn't meet it. Even defensively, I mean, they hung in there. Don't get me wrong. They limited Mahomes. They kept it within striking distance for Bo Nix to do what he did at the end of the game. But it took too long, I guess, is what I'm getting at, Zach, for the Broncos to meet that intensity. And I think that, unfortunately, Phil, it's one of the marks of a young team. They're learning those things. And that intensity that the Chiefs showed you in the second half, the championship quarters, third and fourth, you got to understand where that comes from. think of all the wars and battles that they've not only been in, but have emerged victorious thereof and thrived from. And I mean, it all just kind of goes into the institutional memory bank, creates a standard, creates a been here before kind of mindset. And it's hard for teams who haven't had that experience to meet it in the same kind of timely manner. So my answer to you, Zach, here is, unfortunately, all you can do, it's really time as far as the intensity thing. It's going to take time for the Broncos to come together and figure that whole thing out. But from a X's and O's perspective, Zach, there are things that can be done offensively to ensure that you get a little more juice out of that squeeze. Because we used to lament, last thing, and I'm serving it back, that all the offense came in the second half. We never saw anything in the first. Now we flipped that script, and it's really bizarre.
We've been lamenting that it's so rare that the Broncos play all 4 quarters. Like you said, it's either the first or that. If they just play a complete game, we would see a more dominant team. But coaching goes back to that. I hate to sound like a broken record. The Chiefs saw that on film. Andy Reid knew the left side was susceptible. Leo Chenal knew Alex Forsythe was susceptible. They attacked that. That's good coaching. Sean Payton left Forsythe in that position. That's bad coaching. It wasn't the defense's fault. It wasn't Bo Nix's fault. It was coaching that lost them the game yesterday, Chad. It sucks.
I agree. Another factor Scott mentions here in our private chat, that depth does play a factor in the second half of games. Guys start getting gassed, start getting tired. That's when the rotation really comes into effect. The teams that have the deeper, stronger rotation, to say nothing of the more experienced, battle-tested rotation, but just that depth, it makes a difference. Broncos, $80 million in dead cap this year. Obviously, Zach, affects that depth quite a bit.
But if the premise is that they lost their energy and their dander in the second half, depth or fatigue, or how are you not up for it more? This is your bitter rival. You're in the playoff positioning. You were up at the half. Why not just step on the gas? Why go into a shell? And you treated Kansas City like they are these Goliaths. You treated them like they are so elite. You didn't treat them like they were any other opponent. You went into conservative mode, and Scott put it best: prevent offense. That will prevent you from scoring and from winning a lot of the time.
True. Guys, we're at, we're at about 32 minutes into this conversation. So we still have to do we're still going to do the jersey raffle. But this is, get your supers, your questions in now, because we'll probably get out of here at about the 45-minute mark tonight. Let me take a quick peek here, Zach, at the chat. Leroy on Facebook: Mile High Salute, guys. I'm not a big fan of running the time down and going for a field goal. Hear me out. I would have at least tried for a touchdown. And if it's not there, go to plan B, go for the field goal. Broncos for life. I hear you, but again, it's once again, hindsight being 2020. You put yourself in those coaches' shoes. Again, understanding with perfect hindsight their ignorance of how bad that left side was. Now, if they would have known in that moment, if they would have had an awareness of the liability Alex Forsythe in that left side of the line was in that moment, it probably would have informed their flow decisions in that final sequence. They might have, Zach, taken a chance or two at the very end, but I can't fault them for doing it the way they did it. You cannot, in the situation there, you cannot fathom that possibly happening. Again, it's one thing for your kicker to go out there and shank it or narrowly miss, even though it's pushing the bounds barely of a chip shot field goal. It's right there in the 35-yard range. That's you can live with your kick. You're still pissed. You're still not accepting it per se, but you understand a little easier, Zach. You can swallow it a little bit more if the kicker just missed the kick. That's not what happened yesterday. And I don't think in this case, I just disagree that that's something they should have done. I can't pick nits in what their plan was. It was perfect. They did everything right, not just Zach in setting it up so that they could, kick the field goal and win it, but you got to remember the imperative there. We cannot let we cannot let Patrick Mahomes back on the field. And that one third down play in particular, Zach, that big boy throw Bo Nix made to Cortland Sutton, I was like, holy snap, we're winning this thing. I don't fault the Broncos for how that for the way they game planned for the kick.
No, not at all. And again, it was a chip shot, Chad. It basically amounted to an extra point. If he just makes that, we're not having this discussion and we're not picking nits. We're focusing on the fact that the Broncos got an upset win at Arrowhead. One more point before we get to Robert. Sean Payton talked as well about that's the kind of game he wanted against Kansas City, is keep it low scoring, keep it one possession, keep it close in the fourth quarter, and hope that you can pull something out. They did everything right. They got the ball back. Chad mentioned that third down conversion. They ran the clock down, good clock management down to 1 second. If you just nail something that they did all season correctly, we're having a much different conversation. That's what it boils down to.
Robert says, and thank you for the super chat, Robert, Bo is going to be a stud. Love from Nevada, MHH for life. I submit to you, he's already a stud, and we're just getting started. He surpassed Jay Cutler in the most passing touchdowns for a rookie quarterback in franchise history in that Chiefs game. And just the poise. I mean, in case you missed it, this is what Adam Troutman said about him. Quote, I'm not really surprised by anything that kid does anymore. It shows extreme poise. You can't say enough good things about him. We believe in him, and it's been impressive. Check that off the list of to-dos for the Broncos. Franchise quarterback, you finally got one. Now, is he on a scale and a level, Zach, of a future Mahomes or Josh Allen? That remains to be seen, but this is a quarterback that will give you an opportunity to win every single game. You know, whether you do or not, obviously, you're not going to win every single game, but this is a quarterback that can be the tide that raises all the ships around him. So now the Broncos, they just got to build that nest.
Troutman's comments are like perfectly mirror what Mike McGlinchey has been saying all season about Bo Nix. So obviously he has the locker room, the support. He's won over his teammates on and off the field. But what struck me more than his own teammate complimenting him, which is no surprise, is that Patrick Mahomes was caught after the game when he greeted Bo Nix and said, great job leading these guys, first of many to come. So the fact that he's getting that sort of respect, game recognizing game, that's impressive to me too.
Exactly. He talked after the game about kind of feeling proud. He didn't use that word, but feeling confident going into that game. And you could tell he was feeling proud about how he comported himself going, quote, toe to toe with Patrick Mahomes. So it's good to hear Mahomes did give him his props, because Mahomes knows, man, they're a juggernaut. They had him dead to rights, dude. Bo Nix did enough to beat Patrick Mahomes yesterday. And just, if it weren't for the football gods plucking a miracle out of the Kansas City air, that's what the storyline would have been. Bo Nix goes in, rocks the house, beats Patrick Mahomes. Is this a changing of the guard? You'd be getting all kinds of those type of storylines, if not to be betrayed, unfortunately, by your kick unit.
You know, I was looking at the stats on the recap from ESPN. Bo Nix had more passing touchdowns than Patrick Mahomes. Estime had more rushing yards than Kareem Hunt. Cortland Sutton had more receiving yards than the Kansas City leading receiver, which I believe was Kareem Hunt as well. They should have won this game. The Broncos outplayed Kansas City and deserved to win the game. The fact that they didn't, Chad, is crushing.
And Patrick Surtain, I'm getting my names all flubbered up today, but Surtain completely dominated DeAndre Hopkins, and like all the matchups, it's like Sean Payton said, everything went the way we wanted it to go. It was perfect. But to quote Mike McGlinchey, Zach, you can't fall asleep at the end there. He did kind of send a shot to Alex Forsythe. You can't fall asleep. It's just so frustrating. But it's 5-5. Got 7 games to go. You're still very much alive in this dance. You still are, Zach, in absolute perfect control of your destiny. We'll see if you deserve that control. Time will tell.
I've watched games with Broncos, games with people, Broncos games, and they said, aren't you excited they're up in the fourth quarter? I said, I'm not excited until I see triple zeros on the game clock, because anything can happen with this team, and yesterday proved that. It's going to be tough to move forward, but we have to. A lot of season left to go.
I see Donovan Rios, rough game for McMillan, Jaquan McMillan. Yeah, he's had a couple of not good games, which is really a bummer. Riley Moss, I felt Zach bounced back well in yesterday's game from a not so great Baltimore showing. Yeah. You can't really say the same for Jaquan, but again, you know, you can't pitch a perfect game every single time. And when you're going against literally the two best quarterbacks in the league in back-to-back weeks, cut your boy some slack. He still is one of the top 2 or 3 nickel corners in the league.
He's going to have a feisty matchup this week, whether he guards Drake London, who probably get PS2, or Darnell Mooney, who's having kind of a career renaissance in Atlanta. They also have Ray McLeod, who's kind of the slot guy as well. So like you said, this is not a bad team by any means with Kirk Cousins, the Falcons. It's going to be another test for that Broncos defense.
Mr. Producer, should we do it? Should we do the raffle? Okay, guys. A quick update, a quick refresher on how this works. So each month on YouTube, we take the top 10 finishers on Super Chat. That's cumulative. So the most Super Chat, number 1, second, and their names go in a hat. All right, so a digital hat, let's call it. And then we do this live raffle where the higher someone is ranked, the more tickets they have in the hat, so to speak, meaning the increased odds are that they win the raffle. And so we're going to do this live raffle as right now, and the winner will get a Denver Broncos jersey from you boys here at MHH of their choosing. So here's how it finished in the month of October. D-Dub, Dale, our friend, at number 1. Chris Hernandez, number 2. The Duchess, Michaela Parker, at 3. Naj Altaf at 4. The Lady D, Deanna Hendry, at 5. Zeus McPeak at 6. Troy Boer at 7. Coach Chris at 8. Jasmine at 9. And Sam Bam at 10. And what I love about that, 3 of them, the ladies of MHH, showing out. So cool. So here we go. We're going to go through, and it's first eliminated, second eliminated, so forth. So the first one out is Sam Bam. Love you, bro. You've won a jersey, so I'm sure you'll be all right. Love you, bro. Jasmine out, unfortunately. Love you, Jasmine. Zeus, no jersey this time. Thank you for your support, Stu. The Duchess,
Upset.
Not winning this one. Duchess has won like 39,000 of the jerseys. I'm joking, obviously, but Naj out. D-Dub, the number 1 seed, out. Okay. Chris Hernandez out. Okay. Number 2 seed. Troy out. Oh my goodness. What do we got here? Lady D out. So that makes the winner chicken dinner. Coach Chris. This is actually kind of cool. Now, there are a few names here that I know have not won a jersey, and so I feel for you, but there will be plenty of other opportunities. Trust on that. It's kind of cool to see Coach Chris come from behind in the tournament, so to speak, and defy the odds and win the jersey, because he's so consistent and reliable and a big part of what we do here. Have you seen him in the chat tonight, Scott? Oh, hold on. I got to see a little communication. Right. Coach Chris. So for those of you who are going, well, I'm not sure, who is Coach Chris? Coach Chris is huge on the morning show, Broncos for Breakfast. So in this case, one of the qualifiers traditionally has been they got to be in the chat to win their jersey. But because Coach Chris, with his schedule as a morning guy, we're not going to hold him to it in this case. But, Zach, we've brought back the jersey raffle. Congratulations to Coach Chris. Much love and respect to every one of you. Seriously, even $1 that you throw down on Super Chat, we see it and view it as a great honor and a blessing. So thank you, MHH.
Not a day goes by where we don't count our blessings because of you guys. And I swear to God, that's totally genuine. Chad and I talk about it almost every single day offline. But congratulations, Chris. Let us know what you want. Let us know what you pick out. We look forward to seeing the jersey when it arrives.
All right, guys. Listen, we got a few messages for you. Then we're going to dip on out of here.
Can't believe it's been 45 minutes already. But that was another tremendous installment, as always, of the Mile High Huddle podcast. If you're not doing so, please follow us on X, Twitter, whatever you call it, at the MHH Pod. You can follow the main account on X at Mile High Huddle, Chad at Chad and Jensen, myself at Kelberman NFL, and Scott, our producer, at Scout Kennedy. If you guys want some merch like we're rocking each and every single podcast, check out MHHmerch.com and get you some. If you haven't done so yet, drop us a like at Facebook.com/Mile High Huddle Pod. If you're on Instagram, you can find us there at mile_high_huddle. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, make sure, this is very important after the raffle, you're leaving your football priest a 5-star review for a chance to win some of that merch each and every single month. Be like Chris, everyone. But if anything, y'all, please, please, please subscribe, like, and share this video and every video you see on the MHH channel. It really helps us grow and reach more Broncos fans just like you.
A mile-high salute and a special shout-out to the great Super Chat superstars and supporters tonight throwing down. We're going to start with the Duchess, Michaela Parker, whose generosity and support is off the charts, and we just appreciate you so much, Michaela. But also the Papa Bear, David McElrath, love you. Sam Bam, love you. Max up in Canada, how did you say? I think you had the pronunciation on his island.
Oh, Manitouin.
There you go. Love it. Max, thank you. Eric, thank you, brother. Triple C, love you, big dog. Phil, love you. Casey Nickel, much love and respect. Troy, much love. George, much love. Keith Brugman and your glorious beard, much love. Taylor Christensen, much love. Zeus, salute. Love you, big dog. The Ronk, love you. And let's see, Robert Otteson, last one. Much love and respect. Guys, Zach and I are off until Thursday as far as the podcast goes, but you can stay up to date with what we're doing by reading our articles at si.com/NFL/Broncos. It's just easier to remember, milehighhuddle.com. Takes you to the same spot. Or connect with us, as Zach mentioned earlier, on Twitter. You can follow Zach at Kelberman NFL, myself at Chad and Jensen. And don't forget, tomorrow, Tuesday, get some Building the Broncos, followed by another episode of Broncos for Breakfast Wednesday morning, Mile High Insiders Wednesday night. Then we're back. Can't wait.
Have a great start to your week. We'll see you Thursday night. Take care. And as always, go Broncos.